Welcome back, Bobcats. Here we go. Today we're going to be talking about interpreting a remainder. It is Chapter 3, Lesson 11. You want to put that down in your notebook. And we're going to be talking about interpreting a remainder. So let's talk about that objective for just a second. What does it mean to interpret a remainder? Well, interpret means to understand. Interpret means to be able to understand the meaning, in this case, of that remainder. So when we get a remainder when we're dividing, what does that mean? Well, it's going to mean different things in different cases. It just depends on the situation. So we're talking about real life situations here. What does the remainder mean? So I have a couple videos here I want you to watch about interpreting the remainder. So let's listen to this first one.
Interpreting remainders. Interpreting a remainder is an important skill when solving real-world problems that involve division. Sometimes we must round up the quotient to the next whole number. Other times we must ignore the remainder and just report the quotient. And there are also times where we must report the remainder and ignore the quotient. Let's take a look at these three different situations. First, meet Alex. He wants to organize all of his 85 DVDs into racks. He goes to the store and finds DVD racks that hold 20 DVDs each. How many DVD racks will he need to buy? To find his answer, Alex divides 85 by 20. The result of the division is 4, with a remainder of 5. Now, Alex must interpret the quotient and the remainder. Dividing 85 by 20, Alex took 85 DVDs and split them into equal groups of 20. The quotient is 4, so there are 4 equal groups, each has 20 DVDs, and the remainder is 5. So there are 5 DVDs left over after Alex split his 85 DVDs into groups of 20. So how many DVD racks must Alex buy in order to ensure that all 85 DVDs are on racks? If Alex buys 4 racks, he will be able to have 4 full racks with 20 DVDs on each. The remainder of 5 indicates that Alex will need to buy 1 more DVD rack to ensure that all 85 DVDs are on racks. Even though the last rack only has 5 DVDs, Alex needs all 5 racks to fit all 85 DVDs. In this word problem, we interpreted our remainder and determined that we needed to round up the quotient to the next whole number.
Okay, I would like you guys to go back in your notes. I would like to put down in your notes, if you would please, interpreting the remainder. So 3 different scenarios of interpreting a remainder. And go ahead and write this in your notes so you have it to reference when you're working on your homework tonight. Okay, let's go on to interpreting the remainders part 2.
Interpreting remainders. Let's look at the second case of interpreting remainders. Malik the baker sells cookies in packs of 12. Today, he made 165 cookies. How many packs of 12 cookies will he make? To find out, Malik divides 165 by 12. His answer is 13, with a remainder of 9. If he split the 165 cookies into groups of 12, he gets 13 groups with 9 cookies left over. We talked about dividing cookies into 13 groups, and 12 cookies make a pack. What about the 9 leftover cookies? We don't need to report this information. We can choose to ignore the remainder. This is one way of dealing with the remainder. So Malik will sell 13 packs of cookies.
All right, let's look at the third and final way of interpreting a remainder we're going to talk about.
Interpreting remainders. Let's now look at the last case of interpreting remainders. Diana is putting frames on shelves in her house. She has 14 picture frames, and she wants each shelf to have 4 picture frames. How many frames will not be on the shelves? 14 divided by 4 equals 3, with a remainder of 2. If Diana wants each shelf to have 4 picture frames, she can have 3 shelves with 4 picture frames on each. But the question is not asking for how many shelves Diana will have. It is asking us to determine how many picture frames will not be on the shelves. Notice that the remainder is 2. So there are 2 picture frames left over. So the number of picture frames that will not be on the shelves is 2. For this example, we reported the remainder and ignored the quotient. In this lesson, you learned how to interpret the remainder of real-world division problems.
All right, if you'd please open up your practice book to page 221. You'll see the page that I have there. We're going to be using models today to help us with the interpretation of our remainders, following the videos that we just watched, understanding the remainders. So it says a group of 5th graders collected 46 cans of food to donate to 3 food banks. If each food bank is going to get an equal number of cans, how many cans does each of them receive? So if you imagine if we have 3 food banks, I'm just going to kind of looks like a face, doesn't it? We're going to use that as a group. So we've kind of done these before. If that is a group of 10, and that is a group of 10, and That is a group of 10. So that is 30, which is going to leave us 16 left. So if I split that 16 among these three groups, each one is going to get 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you could do this at home with a plate, or you could get a paper towel or a plate, and then get some objects to go ahead and place on there. For at school, we'll go ahead and use models for this. We'll use counting models. So I have 45 there, which means I have one left over. That is my leftover. So we are going to be using 46 cans, right? That's what we ask you guys to do. And we're going to use, how many paper plates? What's the number of food banks? That's going to be our paper plates. We're going to use 3 paper plates for that. Divide them equally among the 3 plates. How many cubes are in each plate? So, how many are on each one of these plates? Well, if we count them up, that should be 15 on each plate. And then how many cubes are left over? Well, that is our leftover there, isn't it? Our one left over. Interpret the remainder. Since each food bank is to get the same number of food cans, they will each receive how many cans? Well, they're going to receive 15 cans, aren't they? Can't use 16. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and we're going to ignore this. Okay? Because we can't fit 16 to give to each food bank, just 15. All right, let's take a look at this next one here. It says a total of 35 students are going on a field trip to NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. That sounds like fun. If there needs to be one adult for every 8 students, how many adults are going to be needed? So they've represented that with those plates and those blocks again. So if we have 8 students in every group, I don't like that color, let's choose red. If we have 8 students, and there are a total of 35 students, so if you look over here to the plates, this one has 8, and 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 then down here we have 3. So let's go back to that question. So how many adults are going to be needed? Well, that would be an adult. That one needs an adult. And that one needs an adult. And that one needs an adult. What are we going to do with these 3 kids here that are left over? Are we going to need an adult for them? Well, I think we probably will. We can't ignore them like we did in the last problem where we just ignored it. This is a case where, like you have in your notes, where we're going to have to round up number 1. So yes, we're going to not only need for each one of these with 8, we're also going to need one here for these 3 as well. So we're going to have to round up in this case. All right, let's take a look at this next problem here. It asks us to use models, explain how to interpret the remainder. So let's take a little closer look at this. It says each picnic table at a park, it seats 6 people. So how many tables will 83 people at a family reunion need? Well, if each seat sits 6 people, so I'm just going to use, you know what, I should probably use a rectangle like this. So if each table can fit 6 people, I want to know how many tables am I going to need? Right? So I'm splitting our 83 people up here into 6 groups of 6. So let's go ahead and divide that. Let's do that over here to the side. So we're taking our 83 people, we're dividing it by 6, breaking it up into 6 people for each table. We're going to divide. 6 goes into 8 one time. We multiply, we subtract, we bring down, we divide. 6 goes into 23 3 times. We multiply, we get 18, we subtract, we have 5 left over. So I have 13, remainder 5 is my answer. So what does that mean? That means I'm going to be able to use 13 tables here, but I have these 5 people left over. Is this a case where we're just going to ignore the remainder? The 5 people from the family, we're going to say, nope, you can't come. No, of course we're not going to do that. This is a case where we're going to have to round up, like our number 1 there. Okay, we're going to have to round up. So, even though our quotient is 13, we really are going to need 14 tables, right? Because we don't want to tell Aunt Sally and Uncle Joe that they can't come because we don't have a table for them. So 14 tables. That is a case that we need to round up. All right, let's take a look at number 5. Let's go ahead and read this. It says that Darcy has 63 flowers to make centerpieces. Each centerpiece uses 8 flowers. So how many centerpieces can she make with her 63 flowers? I'd like you guys to go ahead and answer this one. Pause the video. Do your best to answer it, and then come back and check your answer once you have finished. All right, so let's take a look at this one. So if we have 63 flowers, and with that she can use 8 for each one of the centerpieces. So we're going to take those 63 flowers and we're going to chop them into groups of 8. I'm not going to chop the flowers, literally. We're going to take those 63. Let's go ahead and divide here to figure out how many can she make. Well, I know 6 does not go into 8, so I got to put 8 into 63. 8 times 7 is 56. We subtract, we get 6 left over. So she has 7, remainder 6. So what does that mean? So how many centerpieces can she make? Well, I have 7 for a quotient, and I have 6 left over. So with that 6, am I going to be able to make another centerpiece? No, I can't make another centerpiece. So the most she can make with the flowers that she has, and that's what they're asking, how many can she make? Most she can make is 7. Where this is a case where we're just going to ignore the remainder. Whatever is left over, we're going to ignore. All right, let's take a look at number 6. This is a teacher received 30 new calculators. Only 8 calculators fit in each carrier. How many carriers does the teacher need? Well, sounds like the first video we watched, doesn't it? Except he was doing DVDs. All right, go ahead and pause the video. Solve this for me if you would, and then go ahead and push play once you have finished your solution. All right, so if we have 30 calculators, and they're going to fit into 8 are going to fit into each carrier, and they want to know how many carriers can we use. Well, let's go ahead and solve this, and then we can interpret this. So we have 30 new calculators, and there is 8 that fit into each of the carriers. So how many carriers are we going to need? Well, 8 does not go into 3. 8 goes into 30. 3 times? We subtract, we get 6. So we have 3, remainder 6. So what does this mean as far as our answer? How many carriers does the teacher need? Well, just like our first video we watched, where the boy was trying to put the DVDs into the containers, this is a similar problem. Well, I have 3 here. 3 is only going to fit 24, though, and I have 30 carriers, or 30 calculators to fit into the carriers. So I'm going to need 4 total, because 3 will not fit them all. I need 4 in order to fit them all. So this is a case where we're going to have to round up in order to get the right amount of carriers. Okay, so let's think for a second. What did we learn today? What did we talk about? What do we have down written in our notes? So I would like you to take all of that information, using our academic vocabulary that we talk about, using the sentence frame to the right, and discuss with your neighbor, what did you learn today? In summary, today I learned